Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call the Lamar City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Goodchild.
Yes.
Wick.
Yes.
Sturgeon.
Here.
Bruns.
Here.
Pick.
Here. And before we approve the agenda, there's one item that needs to be pulled, and that's consent item D3. So,
motion to approve that change.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to item B1, hearing for the Lamar's Urban Revitalization Area. At the November 5, 2024 meeting, the council set this date and time to hear public comments regarding the proposed amendment to the revitalization plan for the Lamar's Urban Revitalization Area. The amendment updates the municipal limits and recent state changes. I'd like to open the hearing and ask for any written or oral objections or comments to the proposed amendment to the revitalization plan. Anybody here to discuss that? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing and turn to the council for their comments and or action.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2453 approving an amendment to the revitalization plan for the Lamar's Urban Revitalization Area.
I'd like to second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Pick.
Yes.
Sturgeon.
Yes.
Wick.
Yes.
Goodchild.
Yep.
Bruns.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Make a motion approving the first reading of ordinance number 993 amending the Lamar's Urban Revitalization Area.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Goodchild.
Yes.
Pick.
Yes.
Sturgeon.
Yes.
Wick.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to general discussion. Citizens, any citizens here to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to a plywood trail update.
All right, I guess I will
Jason?
chime in, and Mark, you can add. I was hoping somebody else from the executive committee would be here, but Mark and I sit on that, so. I'm just going to give you an update that was given to us last week from the engineer as far as what's been happening out there. So if you've noticed, the barricades that were up are now removed. So there's no restrictions for people who are using it anyway. But where we were in the process was areas of the trail were rougher than they should be. So that has been the discussion recently is, are you going to fix them? How are you going to fix it? How much are you going to fix? So Goverson Smith will fix some of the worst spots on that trail. And this is all tentative because nothing has been, I don't think, agreed to in writing, but they've agreed to liquidated damages on both 1A and 1B portions of it. So just remember, the stretch from Lamar's to Merrill was divided into two separate. It was Merrill to the north side of the bridge and then north side of the bridge to Lamar's. So that's the two separate sections. So they've agreed to liquidated damages roughly in the just under 100,000 range for those two sections, plus a deduct for some of the rough areas of that trail. And the deduct and the liquidated damages are going to be used by plywood to get the rest of it repaired if it needs to be repaired.
The rest of it repaired.
What's that?
The rest of it repaired, what do you mean?
So there was quite a bit that was outside of the smoothness, I guess.
There's an acceptable
factors.
range of like a quarter inch, right?
Yeah, per 10 foot or something.
And so some
Yeah,
spots.
there
are
was a
out
range
by
that we had to go by,
couple.
and there was quite a bit of it that was out of that range. But there were some areas that were significant. So Goverson Smith has agreed to fix those considerable out of range areas, leaving the rest of it.
It sounds like extremely loose terminology.
I'll explain a little
For
bit.
any
just-
agreements, because, but I got a couple things. First of all, if I heard you wrong, help me out here. Because, but there were two sections, but the two sections you described were the same section. You said to the north end of the bridge, and then from the north end of the bridge south to Lamar.
Merrill to the north end of the bridge,
And then from there to.
then from the north end of the bridge to Lamar.
Gotcha, okay, thank you, okay. Keep going.
Yeah, so with the liquidated damages and the amount that they've agreed to deduct, that amount is gonna be used to hire somebody else to make any other repairs that we feel need to be.
Okay. With that being said, are the three low spots gonna be taken care of? That form ponds every time there's clouds in the sky? Because there are three low spots that are unacceptable in my book. And they're right by the poles, everybody knows where they are.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've noticed them recently though.
Well, you haven't, because we haven't had rain. So you most certainly haven't had them recently, but the minute we get a half inch of rain, you'll notice them again.
Well,
And
so.
they are low.
A couple of things to that point. The explanation I've been given by the engineer is that the DOT has a requirement for a certain width of ditch. So when you take from the road right of way to the property of the landowner, if you put a trail of the width we need within there, you wouldn't have their required ditch. So some of the trail has to be within the ditch. So all they can do then is grade it sufficient that it flows into the ditch. Part of the problem is we didn't have the vegetation down to keep the water just from pulling the dirt, which then plugged the culverts, which then dammed up the water. There's always going to be some times where it's going to be wet right after a rain. The goal and hope is obviously that within, so many hours or the next day, that water's still not there. We won't know that until, like this spring when we have, because those culverts have been blown out. That's part of what they still had to do and they've done.
Okay.
Right? But because of the amount of space available, it was never going to be, here's the ditch, here's the entire trail in those spots. And short of that, we could have moved the poles, but it was a few $100,000 each, I think. So I think,
Moving the poles, okay, Mark, what I'm not understanding about your explanation is raising a grade does not require more lineal footage.
right, but then that takes away from the ditch, and the ditch has to be at a certain level for a certain width.
All I know is the same engineering outfit that laid bit from Martin's Trailer Court down there by Sioux City, headed north. They kept it up high and dry.
See if there was any difference on how much available land was there.
Well, I'm not gonna go out with my tape measure. I just
But I mean,
know
that's the
that
explanation.
my problem is that every time, once Lamar's, okay, so part of this
It's
update.
the same engineer.
Yeah.
I know that, I know that. The part of this update I wanted was where are we at on this endowment? Because I understand it, we haven't accepted, the completed project of the plywood trail yet, it's not completed, correct?
Correct.
So who gets ownership once we do? Because I'll go back 6 years, we were told this endowment, which has never been formed, to my knowledge, it's never been formed, is gonna own this trail. So when your explanation of those low spots, Mark, doesn't work next year, and the culverts fill up with dirt, it's gonna be Lamar's responsibility and cost, because this endowment was supposed to pay for maintenance. That has since changed. So
I
don't think that's
I'm-
changed.
Huh?
That hasn't changed.
Has it been formed?
No.
There's
Not-
a
no,
2080
not yet.
agreement that provides maintenance as the responsibility of the plywood trail.
So that is in place.
Well, it's been in place for what, 3-4 years?
But is there a bank account with it? So that
I
when
have no
we
idea.
spend,
When the entirety of the
spend a whole
trail-
bunch of money out there
Yeah,
cleaning out culverts that aren't gonna work the way it's laid out, they're not gonna work.
right.
Okay? then it's my maintenance cost.
When the entirety of the trail is done, one of the last and final things is to make sure that we have enough money to have that endowment in place. From this point forward, let's say it takes 3 more years, the plywood trail is still going to be working with the city to reimburse the city for those costs.
Okay,
Well, I
that's one of the
anticipate,
agenda items
in the
tomorrow.
spring, Clark,
This afternoon.
if we gotta go out there and spend some time cleaning it off or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm gonna send them invoices to
And it's gonna get paid.
okay,
plywood committee.
okay. That's what I want to make sure. I mean, I'm all for, if it's simple maintenance and our crews have time to do it, I'm great. But if
Right.
this thing fills up with corn and silt a foot deep, and we're sending crews out there and hiring subcontractors to do it, you're talking some real expense that I don't want my city to pay for, because I already have enough parks to deal with.
Mark, don't the engineers think that the vegetation that just grew this fall is gonna have a major effect on a lot of Clark's issues?
Right.
They do.
Right.
They do.
That,
Okay.
that coupled with the
Yeah.
blown out culverts and the fact
So
that
we
they're not
don't
gonna.
know,
Yeah.
we don't know if there's a problem or not at this point.
Our biggest problem with this, and I'm not gonna get into more criticisms about the contractor, is that the timing of the things that they did and didn't do, then we had this all of a sudden
Sure.
major rain, and it just caused issues that just kept going on.
I can accept that, Mark, I really can, but
But
I want to protect the city, that's what my bottom.
Right, and I've got you on that too, trust me. I mean, I'm not just saying that.
Okay.
We're keeping out, Jason and I are both keeping out for that.
All right.
I will say also, though, I don't know if it was clear, the spots that they're going to fix, they're gonna take out entire sections and put them back in.
I see.
And we obviously couldn't do that on the whole trail. Some of the spots that we may later have to fix, it's gonna be a little different process, or maybe.
So they're not just grinding down humps?
It was just, yeah, we went over so many different
Some
ways
pretty
of
nasty
feasibility of.
No, there was no sufficient way to grind.
Yeah.
There were some
That-
nasty.
Without
Well,
further disturbing the
equipment
dirt.
issues of getting equipment in there to
Yeah.
grind the
Gotcha,
stuff.
okay.
Which then gets us back to the vegetation and
All right,
culvert
okay,
issues.
okay.
Yeah, so they're gonna have a deadline to get those things done, which isn't gonna be till spring now.
Right.
But, I mean, so that's where it's at. It's open, well, there's no barriers out there
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So
Okay?
they'll fix it in the spring when they should be in Sioux Center?
Yeah, Yeah,
But
probably.
when the snow starts flying, it will not be plowed.
No.
No, and that's gonna be any year. The
Right.
plan was never to plow it.
Right.
You know, and I think so all the signage up that was required by this project is up. But I think we need to look at additional signage at the beginnings,
Well, that was,
explaining some of this stuff.
that was actually my next thing on this, and then I'll drop it. But I know the required signage is up, but I think there's some ethical and maybe responsible signage that still needs to go up. Because there are some blind spots that are very, very dangerous for some people. And I'm concerned about those, so there's my 2 cents.
And then a little clarification also, the liquidated damages, a lot of that are the late days.
Right,
You know, that's pretty much what that is.
okay,
So that's the update.
thank you.
All right. Thumbs up award? You have one?
Meanwhile, I was gonna say that, check out the southern part, it's really looking good. I know some people who allegedly have been on it and said it's really good. So,
Down there?
Yeah.
By North Sioux City?
He's
Yep.
talking about himself.
No, I am not. Not yet, but I am talking about some people I know.
All right, we'll go to the thumbs up award. Mark, we'll start with you.
Thumbs up to all the volunteers and folks who put on the Christmas in Lamar's.
All right.
Yes, we had visitors from New York, Chicago, South Dakota, and they were all highly impressed. So thumbs up to all of the committee and the chamber for putting on a good one.
Yeah, I would say the same. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of volunteers, and thanks for everybody that was involved, so.
Yeah, and honestly, thumbs up to the fact that sometimes parking's a little hard to find downtown. Things are filling up, but that's a good thing. We've been down there several times, so thumbs up to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same.
Brett?
Same for me, but I also wanted to give a thumbs up to the folks that are involved with the Quilts of Valor with Veterans Day in November. Jenny Fryermuth and Jerry Dreckman and all of the folks who have been a part of that Quilts of Valor program and recognizing our veterans with those quilts. That's something that I think deserves a thumbs up.
Moving on to consent items. Under the consent items, we have an approval of the November 19, 2024 regular meeting minutes, a list of bills for period ending 11/30/24. In number 4, we have Power Players Snowmobile Club request. Any discussion on any of those items?
Do we normally get a map on that Powder Players? I was kind of looking for that and it wasn't part of it.
We originally did. I
What was that?
get
The
a
map
map.
of the snowmobile trail.
It wasn't when we did it.
We used to a long time ago, but I'm not sure. Motion to approve consent items 1, 2, and 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to action items. E1, reverse osmosis water treatment plant project. Council set this date to consider bids received for the reverse osmosis water treatment plant project. A total of 5 bids were received and opened on November 21st, 2024 at 1 p.m. The bid tab is attached. Administration and McClure Engineering recommend council award the project to the lowest bidder. Project will be funded through bonds and paid by user rates. I believe we have a representative from McClure as well as Rich Sattel here to discuss the project.
Yeah, good afternoon, Michael Washburn, McClure Engineering in Sioux City. Just want to give you a summary of the bids, kind of what we saw with the bidding. So we opened bids last Thursday, November 21st, for all 3 projects. So the new water treatment plant, the new well 15, and the raw water main. For the water plant, we received 5 bids. The low bid was $20.39 million from Hugendorn Construction out of Canton, South Dakota. The range on the bids was from $20.39 million to $25.58 million, and the engineer's estimate was $26.95 million. So very competitive bids. We were very happy with the pricing and the bids received. So we would recommend award to Hugendorn. They've done some similar projects in the area. They did the Sanborn, Iowa water treatment plant. They did the Sheldon, Iowa wastewater treatment plant. So just checked on the references. Question. Yep.
No, I apologize. I'm thinking, but go ahead.
Okay. Sure. Well 15, we received 5 bids. So a good amount of bids. The low bid was $2,198,000 from L&L Builders in Sioux City. They did the well 14 project a couple years ago. Range on the bids, $2.198 million to $2.829 million. Our estimate was $2.49 million. So another bid under the estimate. We would recommend you do award to L&L. Feel they're qualified to do that project. And then last, raw water main, we received 11 bids, very competitive. The low bid was $287,000 and some odd cents from Vanderpool Excavating in Orange City, very familiar contractor. Range on the bids was from $287,000 to $574,000, and our estimate was $652,000. So again, we would recommend you award to Vanderpool. If you add it all up, total project cost, when we started the project, the budget was $35 million. With these bids, plus some contingencies in there for construction, unknowns, all in costs, we're looking at about $27 million. So
What
sits
do you
today,
chalk that up to? Because that's a pretty big, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic direction to be going. It's a good direction to be going, but.
I think timing is big. I think we saw a lot of hungry contractors looking for work next year.
Okay,
I also think the fact that you're funding this locally, you're not using federal and state sources, because those sources require additional things
Right.
that affect the cost. And then I feel like, post-COVID, that inflation's starting to cool off. And, even through last year, projects like this we're still coming in above estimate. So obviously we have to adjust our estimates to market conditions, and it feels like it's starting to come off. Inflation's coming down again on this type of work, so that's good.
So a good sign that things to come.
Hope so, hope so, yeah.
You've worked with all of these contractors before?
We have not worked with Hugendorn. They've bid a lot of our projects, but they've never been the low bid. So that's why we did check some references.
And
And
then
then-
you're comfortable with?
Yeah.
You said Sanborn and Sheldon?
Yep, Sheldon. And I've been through the Sanborn plant before. It's very nice.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. I guess,
A lot of subcontractors are going to work with, that they have.
what's that?
A lot of the subcontractors at Hugendorf have, or contracts we work with,
Okay.
so like the skater on that.
And I guess in light of which you probably know nothing about, my recent wastewater contract being awarded, this is an all-inclusive contract. There's no, another 250,000 coming next week on a tie-on or something, right? This is the deal here, right?
Yeah, this is it.
This is it.
Like I said, there is, in the 27 million, there's some contingency for unknowns.
I understand.
Yeah, but there's no, yeah.
Yeah, that's already.
But I'm just saying that I'm not gonna get an add-on to this in 2 weeks for $500,000 for, okay, because got burnt a couple weeks ago. In light of that, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2453. 54 to award the contract of reverse osmosis treatment plant to Hugendorn, contractors of Canton, South Dakota, in the amount of $5 million.
Don't mind.
Where's my number at?
20 million.
Go to there.
Go back to the letter, yeah.
Ah, there it is. $20,390,000.
I'll second. Go ahead.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Pick,
Yes.
Wick,
Yes.
Sturgeon.
Yes.
Bruns,
Yes.
Goodchild.
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to action item E2, council set this date to consider the bids received for well 15 project. A total of 5 bids were received and opened on November 21st, 2024.